Talk with Mark. I'm your host, Mark Hairston, and this is my company here in the background, Texas Mortgage Source. As you know, I've been doing home loans for a long, long time in Central Texas. And in the last couple of years, I've really been focusing my efforts more into the reverse mortgage market. And we've been have a lot of our shows recently on that subject. And I'm thrilled to invite and have a new guest today named Harlan. Pronounce the last name again?
Akala.
I always mess
Yes.
that up. And I was telling the production manager this morning before the show that Harlan's the only person in 3.5 years on this show that I don't really know well. I've only met him one time, but I've heard him endless hours on podcasts, and I've heard him live speak. And I'm thinking, man, if I can get this guy on the show, whoever's on this listening in, you need to stop what you're doing. If you're over 62 and own a home, or you have parents that are over 62 and own a home, you need to stop what you're doing and listen to this message. This may be the most important message you're going to hear all year. And so, matter of fact, I was listening to you this morning on the way in with Dinesh D'Souza of his podcast. And that was a great show. I've loved Dinesh D'Souza. And so Harlan is one of the foremost experts, and I mean experts in the reverse mortgage space in the country, and has been doing this since 2003. So we've got about 25 minutes to chat a little bit. So open up and tell us a little bit about your background, Harlan, please.
Well, I campaigned heavily against reverse mortgages 25 years ago. Told people they're a ripoff. They screwed the old people and hurt the kids, so just stay away from them. And that was my 15-second discussion whenever anybody would say anything about reverse mortgages. Just don't do them. They're awful.
Right.
And if they came back and said, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I'm telling you, just don't do it. And that was my mind was completely shut.
Kind of a Dave Ramsey sort of look,
Well, the problem was I listened to Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian, but Dave Ramsey is just incredibly wrong on a bunch of stuff. And sometimes people treat him like the second coming, and he's not. And,
right.
I used to give his books away, and I'm on Christian radio shows now. And some people will call in and say, "Hey, this isn't what Dave Ramsey said." And it's kind of like, well, do you want to look at the facts, or do you want to look at somebody's opinion? And he's got very bad opinions, just like I did. I understand where he's coming from, because I had these horrible opinions about how reverse mortgages rip people off. And so I started, one guy hit me aside the head and said, if what you thought was wrong, when would you want to know? And I said, well, nobody's going to say, well, tell me in 10 years.
Right. Yeah. Yesterday.
Yeah. So I said, well, I don't think I'm wrong, but just in case, just go ahead and tell me. And so then I started checking into it. And it took me 6 months, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less than a year. And I started doing the research of really trying to figure out what's wrong with these things.
Yeah.
And the further I went, the more I realized that there really wasn't anything wrong with it. And except on the way they're used, which I created a chapter in my book called Drugs, Sex, and Reverse Mortgages.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of people go to that chapter for some reason. And anything can be bad. Forward mortgages were bad. Forward mortgages have hurt far more people than reverse mortgages ever did. I mean, look at the 2008 to 2012. Millions of people lost their home. Tons of investors, families were decimated credits for years. And so anything can be used incorrectly. Drugs can kill you, or they can save your life. Sex can obviously be good, or it can be evil. Reverse mortgages can be used incorrectly too. So does insurance products or investors. Has anybody ever heard of Bernie Madoff? Does that mean you shouldn't invest money? So what it really comes down to is the problem is that people, and even in our industry, people sell a reverse mortgage. You should never, ever sell a reverse mortgage. Exactly. You sell what they do and how they fit into an overall retirement plan.
That's right.
And so really our industry, it's our fault, because we went out there saying, hey, if you're broke, you should get a reverse mortgage. You need some money, TV commercials with the Fonz and, all the other movie characters. And hey, you guys need money, call the 800 number. And are you broke? Do you need money for drugs? Not legal drugs, prescriptions. And that's what was being promoted. So everybody thought this is a mortgage for the poor, which we want to help the people that are poor. And I'm not at all making fun of that situation at all. But what it got to being is that everybody looked at it as, okay, this is something that you only do when you are broke.
Right.
And you only fix the car, the retirement car, when it's smoking on the side of the road. Everybody knows that you change the oil before that.
Right.
So, which is why I did my reverse mortgage, because when I started looking into it, I said, okay, would this work for me? Would this work for my parents? Which everybody should do, because most people, and this is where, when I'm doing speaking events, in fact, I've got one later in Washington, D.C. this week, and I'm going to start out my presentation with how many of you are planning on doing a reverse mortgage when you turn 62? And out of 300 people, I guarantee you that 2 people will raise their hand.
Yeah.
So that's really, most people should put this into their plan. And when I put it into my plan and I put it into my parents' plan, it was like, okay, this is better than not using it. Absolutely. And so most people don't need a reverse mortgage. I don't need a reverse mortgage, but I have one.
Right.
Because it makes sense and it increases my net worth, decreases my taxes, and gives me more cash flow. And wouldn't everybody want that? Exactly. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, one of the things I love about you and others in this space is your passion for the product, and there's a stat, correct me if I'm wrong, but approximately $14 trillion is held by seniors in home equity around the country. Would you say it's about right?
Well, last week they upped that to 14.9 trillion. So we're just short of 15 trillion, but give or take a trillion, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. And it seemed to me, I heard you one time, or maybe more than once, that one of your goals or missions is to move about $1 trillion of that for people into reverse mortgages.
Yeah, if you moved $1 trillion from reverse mortgages into what we call bucket 2 in my book, the investment bucket,
right?
If you move that money into that bucket, we would change way retirement's done in this country. People would be able to handle long-term care. They'd have more long-term care insurance. They'd have more life insurance to give to their kids or their spouse. They would have more investment money. I have less equity in my house, and on purpose, so that I could have more money in my investment bucket, which is better for me, better for my wife, and better for our kids and our grandkids. And most people don't understand that that's better. That there's nothing wrong with not doing a reverse mortgage, but it's like saying, I don't need a car. I can do just fine with a bicycle and my moped, which is technically true. Cars have only been around for the last 100 years. So it's true. You can get by without a car, but it just doesn't, it's more efficient if you have one.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention your book, which I just finished last night or this week for the second time, Home Equity and Reverse Mortgages, the Cinderella of the Baby Boomer Retirement. So I want to put that out there for sure for people to take a look at, because I think it's a fabulous book. I've read probably a dozen books on reverse mortgages through some great writers. You probably know all of them. But this one just is easy to read, but it makes so much sense. So I want to promote that. And also getting back to these buckets. In chapter 5, you talk about the 3 buckets, and you say, Dr. Seuss says, sometimes the questions are complicated and the answers are simple. Reverse mortgages seem to be complicated, but tell us how they fit in, or home equity fits into an overall comprehensive financial plan using these bucket analogies.
Yeah, I'm just a farm kid from Wisconsin who never went to college, so I'm pretty big into simple stuff. There's so many people that make financial planning so complicated. And it's really simple. You spend less than you make, or you make less than you make more than you spend. That applies to retirement. There's only so much money, and if you deficit spend, we're not like the government. We run into problems. You can't put more money like they can. So the issue is that applies to retirement. Well, everybody has 3 buckets. Well, bucket 1 is their ability to make money. Bucket 2 is the investment bucket, and bucket 3 is the house. What people don't realize is during their lifetime, for 40 years, from 20 to 60, they're making a bunch of money, and most of it you spend on food, clothes, cars, kids, something called the cost of living. And then most people spend a little less than 10% going into bucket 2, IRAs, savings accounts, annuities, cash value life insurance, all those different things. But they give over 30% to bucket 3, the house. So that's 3 times as much going into bucket 3, into the house. So then when you get into retirement and income goes down and they're living off from Social Security, or they're not working as much or whatever, then they go to bucket 2 and walk into their advisor's office, who they've given less than 10% of their income to for the last 40 years, and say, okay, I'm retired now. I want a bunch of money out of my IRA. But they do not walk back into their mortgage company office I say that at Movement Mortgage all the time. We on the first of the month, just a few days ago, we had millions of dollars pouring in. We're taking 30% of our 330,000 clients, and that's being sucked out of their wallets into a mortgage. Which that's great. They bought a house and they're living in the house, so they certainly don't mind paying us 30% of their income. But when you get into retirement, because you poured all that money into bucket three, why would they not ask us, hey, can I have some of my money back that I gave you guys? Because they asked that by the financial advisor. What if they walked into their financial advisor's office, Mark, and said, I'd like some of the money that I've been giving you guys for the last 40 years. And the financial advisor, no, that's not for you. That's for your kids. Get out of here. We'll send it to your kids when you die. You'd fire that financial advisor and say, give me my money. But that's what we do in the mortgage business. I mean, at Movement, we explain it to people. So it's a different situation. And you probably do too, that, hey, you're going to pay us until you're 62. And when you get to be 62, we're going to give you a refund of some or all of your payments that you've been paying for the last 40 years. Doesn't that just make sense?
Yeah.
It's just a refund of bucket three money. And so why would bucket three, $15 trillion not be associated with retirement? It is the largest single asset class that is not managed in this country. It's not managed by the mortgage industry because they're done with it. They've got, the house is paid off or whatever, or 50% of people are still making a mortgage payment when they don't have to. So that's really the issue in the three buckets is use bucket three. My life is better. My wife's life is better. Our kids and our grandkids will be better off because I'm using bucket three. And
love it.
Shouldn't we use all of our resources?
Absolutely.
You don't just put the money in the mattress. You don't just hide it in a coffee can. But that's what people are doing with their house. They're burying it in the ground and doing nothing with it. When we're talking to Christian audiences, we talk about, should you just bury your home equity in the ground?
Debt equity, right. Debt equity.
It's dead. It's not doing anything. So when somebody says to me, hey, Harlan, I've got a $1 million house and it's paid off, it's free and clear. They puff out their chest and they stand a little taller and they feel pretty good about it, and I always say the same thing. I'm very sorry to hear that. And they say, well, a lot of people aren't.
What do you mean?
And I said,
all defensive,
you can't use one dime of that $1 million. You're a millionaire and you can't use one dime.
To go buy groceries or anything else,
So and people say, well, I can borrow against it. I can get a home equity loan. Yeah. Then you got to pay it back. You borrow 100,000, you pay back 200,000. What good did that do? So what it really comes down to is incorporate bucket three into your financial plan, because it comes down to math. There's a lady that came to me before a speaking engagement that I was at in Atlanta. And I said, hey, you coming to my keynote at 3:00 this afternoon? She said, nope, I don't believe in reverse mortgages. And I said, oh, well, this is not a faith-based product. This is a math-based product. Do you believe in math? And as a matter of fact, I do. And so
I've heard that line. I love that line. It's not a faith-based product.
Just look at the math. I mean, yes, you have to believe in it to do it. But I had to have it proved to me by math to realize that my retirement was going to be better if I had a reverse mortgage than if I didn't. So I can afford to pay off my house. Why would I pull money out of bucket two to pay off my house when I can't use that money?
Right. Don Graves makes a great analogy about what you just said about all the buckets, if you will. He says, if you're a team and goes to the Super Bowl, you're not going to play just 10 players. You're going to play all the players you can, and that makes sense to me. I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't people ever look at all their assets, not just their retirement or Social Security or their pension, but your home equity? And that kind of speaks to the psychological part of this in a way, because I was hearing you listen. I was listening to you the other day. I forget the podcast, but anyway, my daddy was born in 1917. He grew up in the Depression. I was born in 59. We're about the same generation. And you talked about mortgage, what you call it, burning your mortgage or something like parties for that. Psychologically, that was the way people thought. But after these loans weren't even possible really until the 80s. So speak to that now as an option for people.
Yeah, I mean, my dad retired in 1981, and less than 5% of people had mortgages back then. Because they were children of the Depression era. I mean, my mom and dad were born in 1919 and 1922. So they obviously went through the 30s. And debt was dangerous. I mean, look at the movies. It's the movie "It's a Wonderful Life" that we watch at Christmas time. The evil banker took people's houses away.
Right. Right.
So you're trained and programmed on pay off your house, because that was the smartest, safest thing to do. Be prior to the 90s, when reverse mortgages were safe and protected and came out of Reagan's administration in 1988. So it is true that it was better to have your house paid off in 1981. But when we got into the 2000s, my own father, who was very much against having a mortgage, got his reverse mortgage.
Yeah.
So really, we have to be fully aware that times have changed. We don't operate we use cell phones. We don't use rotary dial telephones anymore.
Right. Right.
So things are different, and you can't just say, well, that's the way it was in the past, so we're just going to do it this way in the future. It was a very different time and for different reasons. So if there is no question that Dad was better off not having a mortgage.
Yeah.
But that's not in my time. I'm better off having a reverse mortgage because Dad couldn't get it in 1981. So this is something that is It's almost like you're taught at birth that you got to pay off your house.
Yeah.
And
that's the way we were.
Yeah, it's just, debt is bad, debt is evil. And then Dave Ramsey picked it up and started teaching it in financial peace classes in thousands of evangelical churches. And so there's all of these people that just automatically assume that the smartest and wisest thing to do is to pay off your house, and they never question it, just like I didn't.
Me too.
And then you realize, something that's actually something new. It'd be like ignoring using the computer, or not having a cell phone, or not believing that AI is going to change the way we do things.
Yeah.
Things have changed, and for people to still be making financial decisions like they're back in 1981 is simply, quite frankly, foolish.
Right.
And they will pay the price of not considering, how does this massive amount of home equity fit into my personal plan?
16 trillion. Yeah. So get back to your book, chapter 2, the current state of the kingdom. I love this. And you quote a guy, and you said, the future is now. It's time to grow up and be strong. Tomorrow may well be too late. So talk a little bit about the current state of the kingdom now in 2026, if you will, economically.
Well, first of all,
maybe why this product more than ever is important. That's what I'm getting personally.
Well, we've seen the biggest increase in values of homes in the history of this country, and it is concentrated in people over 62. We own half the market. People over 62, the
That's
baby
amazing.
boomers.
Amazing.
And all of the people the average first-time home buyer, I think, is getting close to 40 now. And so a lot of 30-year-olds don't even have a house.
Right.
And so I made sure that, because of my reverse mortgage, all 4 of our sons and their wives and families have houses. There's a whole bunch of people that should be doing a reverse mortgage for no other reason than to help their kids buy a house.
Right.
Because
what do you call the warm hand versus the dead hand? What do you call it?
Warm hand versus a cold hand. How do you want to give your money away? I prefer to give my money away with a warm hand.
Absolutely.
In fact, I've worked with a financial advisor down south who says you should be giving while you're living, so you're knowing where it's going.
Oh, man.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So I can be of help to our kids. Why should I give money to my kids when I'm 90 and they're 60? At that point, they're thinking about retirement. So being of help now instead of waiting, and using that money now is so critical. And 50% of people are still making mortgage payments. And I always ask people, did you know that you're sending that money directly to your kids? Would you send $1,850 a month to your kids every month? Well, no. I said, well, that's what you're doing. Think about it, because it's not doing you any good. Right. Except you're going to get rid of your payment eventually when you're 92, and then you don't have to make payments from 92 until 95 when you pass away. Yeah. And so the issue is that this is a time. I just talked to a client this morning with their financial advisor, and his wife died. He's trying to live on $1,700 a month, and he's only got $150,000 in bucket 2 with his advisor, but he's got a paid off $400,000 house.
Right.
And he's pulling money out of the house and planning on getting Social Security early, so that he is able to make ends meet. Well, take money out of your house. And plus he's still making a payment. I think he's got, I don't know, $15,000 left on his mortgage or something. So he's putting more money in bucket three and he's already got 400,000 in bucket three and taking money out of bucket two and depleting the goose that's laying golden eggs.
Yeah, and again, that speaks to as far I'm concerned, speaks to the different options people have around reverse. It's not just for people who are broke. There's a lot of other financial planning scenarios that come into this play. Why do you think a lot of CFPs or wealth advisors don't know about this very well? Because it hasn't been taught?
It's partially our fault in the industry because when I started in the reverse mortgage industry and I went to training, I said, who's my typical client? And they said, an 85-year-old widow who recently lost her husband and doesn't have much money. And I thought, okay, well, that's great. I want to help 85-year-old ladies that, that need money. But the more I thought about it, it was like, why didn't we do a reverse mortgage for this 85-year-old widow and her husband when they were in their 60s? Because then she wouldn't be broke right now.
Yeah.
And so, but we went around and said, hey, if you got any old clients that are running out of money, we can help them. And so what did we do?
You can, but that's just one little segment.
Exactly. And we promoted that to financial advisors. So I just talked to a financial advisor about one of his clients. He said, my client doesn't need a reverse mortgage. They've got $1.2 million. And I said, they also have a $380,000 tax bill and we can help them with eliminating the tax bill. And he said, well, all I understand is that reverse mortgages have a very narrow use and it's only for people that really, really need them. Well, that's because that's what we told them. And that's what Dave Ramsey told them in church and everything else, that this is a very narrow usage product. And because that's promoted, the CFPs start thinking that they can do everything by using bucket two. And they can't because there's not enough money in bucket two. There is for the top 5%ers, but there's a whole bunch of the mass affluent that only have $100, $200, $300, $500,000, and it's not going to last. The only thing they can do is die early in order to make their money last. And that's not a great alternative to say, well, if I die early, at least I won't have to worry about money. That's kind of a crappy retirement plan.
In one of your podcasts, you said, I forget what year it was because I wasn't paying attention, but you said, now is a great time to die. Equities are up and prices are up. That's a great idea,
Yeah, don't die in 2008 to 2012 because your home isn't worth very much.
That's right.
Yeah, if you take a look at the values of houses and the stock market being up, die right now so your kids get the maximum inheritance. That's not the goal. And if your kids want you to die early so they get your money, you should find new kids.
And the other thing, another part of this is people are living longer. I mean, average age, I think, is up 5 years for men since 1980 or something like that. I forget exactly the stats, and people are going to be running out of money.
Well, here's the deal, Mark. Every single client that I've ever talked to that's in their 90s, all of them said, I had no idea. If I knew I was going to live this long, I would have done some things differently. There's very few people that plan to live. I've got a book right here in my office called, But What If I Live? Everybody says, what if I die? Well, what if you live? What if you live to be 95?
Right.
What then? Have you planned for that? Do you know what's going on? Have you timed your retirement, your Social Security, your home equity, your investments to coincide with a potential long life? Because it's not fun to run out of money. I mean, I talked to a guy a long time ago and he said, money isn't everything, but it's reasonably close to oxygen. And that's really true. If you run out of money, you need it for gas, you need it for food. It's not about wasting money. It's about, it's called the cost of living. I saw a sign outside a church a long time ago. The cost of living is high, but it's still extremely popular. So you kind of need it.
Well, I live in Austin, Texas, and have for a long time. And I was reading a stat just the other day that as an example, our insurance costs are up 50% from 5 years ago. Home insurance. Okay. That means for a policy at $2,500 a year, maybe $4,000 now. Okay. And it's not coming down. See, that's the thing about inflation. It doesn't reverse itself, generally speaking. Food prices are high, drug prices are high, property taxes, so again, you've got to be thinking 20 years out, 30 years out. Now, am I going to live that long? I have no idea, but let's think about it. And everybody needs to be thinking about it. And I think the stat says that by 2030, there's going to be 78 million seniors or something like that. There's a huge market for this.
Well, there's actually 72 million right now past the age of 62. So that's a lot of us old people with gray hair. So
I mean, that silver tsunami like you.
So it's really a situation. It's dangerous not to think about this. because it is something that there's all kinds of people that say, yeah, I'm doing good. We make it every month.
Right.
Well, let's look. Let's look a year. Let's look at 5 years. Let's look at 20 years, and that changes the whole conversation.
Absolutely.
And way too few people put on far-sighted glasses. They just got on their nearsighted readers.
So I've got about a minute and a half left. I knew this was gonna go quick. We could spend several hours on this, but what do you leave every retiree something at the end of this call? What do they need to know about reverse mortgage? At least open their eyes to listen to it or look at it?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to promote a book, and in fact, to prove that, I don't care if you go on Amazon and buy the book for $20. If you call me at 715-207-9991, I'll send you a free copy, because I'm very concerned about people being educated on this.
I wish I would have known that. I bought 10 this week.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I send them to clients, they read this. I'm serious.
The issue is don't, after listening to this or any other reading any other book or whatever, don't just say, oh, okay, I don't know if I should do a reverse mortgage or not. You need to investigate it. You need to check it out. Don't know what you're saying no to. Maybe you shouldn't do it. Maybe there's a reason why you shouldn't do it. But
That's
most people that say I shouldn't do it end up realizing that they probably should. And the biggest, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. The biggest single complaint that I've dealt with, not one client out of thousands have ever said, I wished I wouldn't have got a mortgage.
Wow.
But thousands, literally, of the thousands that I've done, more than half have said, I wished I would have done this earlier.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? Check it out and find out. That there's no harm in reading the book, finding out some more details and checking it out, because if you don't, what you don't know can hurt you.
Well, it was a great conversation, Harl. I hate to let you go, but time is up here. But keep up the good work, and I can't wait to talk with you again soon.
Glad to do that. Thanks for